Hello and welcome. My name is Tim Shaw, the Government Affairs Director here at the Pacific West Association of Realtors, and I'm pleased to be joined today by the Treasurer Tax Collector over the County of Orange, Shari Freidenrich. Shari, thank you for taking the time to visit with us.
Well, good morning. Thank you for inviting me as a humble and grateful public servant. It's great to be here talking about one of my favorite topics, which is housing and property taxes, along with a few other things. So thank you for having me on.
Sure. How long have you been our Treasurer Tax Collector?
Well, I have been a public servant for almost 28 years. I started with the City of Huntington Beach as their treasurer in 1996 after the bankruptcy, and then was elected and honored to be here at the County of Orange starting in 2011. So I've been here about 14 years as the Treasurer Tax Collector. During that period, I really tried to hone my skills for the taxpayers and focus on ways to streamline operations because government has no competition. So I've worked on getting highly credentialed in areas of investments and banking. My background is with Deloitte in real estate banking, so it does tie very well with the types of things I used to do in private industry, and I'm really here to make a difference for taxpayers because I work for them.
So some people, I know, we probably laugh about this, they don't always know the difference between what the assessor's doing and what the Treasurer Tax Collector's doing. So what is it you do versus what the assessor does? Can you tell us real quick about that?
It's such a great question because we are the public face, it seems, because we send the tax bill out, and so we get all of those calls. The clerk recorder actually starts the process, which your agent will know because the deeds have to be recorded with the P-Corps, the change in ownership paperwork that's done. That then goes to the assessor, who then formalizes that change of ownership or improvement, the mortgage deed that's been recorded into the account at the county. The assessor's parcel number is what they call it. And so they manage the ownership and the address. All the change of address go to them, and they're very careful because, of course, we don't want title fraud to happen. So between the clerk recorder, who makes sure that they send out the notice if there is a change to your property to the original owner, not just the new, and then the assessor, very important. So when the information gets to me, my role is to really bill that taxes, to build that tax bill, make sure it looks like it's easy to communicate so people will pay, and then collect those payments, receive those in through our cashiering area, and then we distribute those and pay those out to the 200 local agencies that are here. So property taxes for the county represents about 93% of the discretionary income. So very important for the county. Plus, for the school districts, they get 62 cents on the dollar. So very important. All those local agencies that get property tax dollars, it helps fund those government services that are critical to us here in Orange County. So we really do work closely with all of those partners, but we do just that billing and collection, which I like. It's the banking side and the collecting side and streamlining that to make it easy for our businesses and small businesses and taxpayers to pay.
Got it. Now you made a quick glancing reference to the county bankruptcy, so we could probably spend weeks dissecting that, but maybe just give us the Reader's Digest version. A previous Treasurer Tax Collector made some poor decisions back in the 90s. The county had to declare bankruptcy as a result. So basically, what happened and what changed as a result of that?
Well, thank you. It is a dark day in history. It was that strike one that we certainly don't like to have, but those lessons learned were very important, and a lot of time was spent on it. The Reader's Digest version, a little bit, is that the treasurer had gone long on their investments, which means that their duration, their average weighted maturity was longer than perhaps it should be for the liquid pooled fund. And so when interest rates sharply went up, guess what happened to those values of those securities that were long? The rates were much higher, so they were at a loss. And the county then needed to basically fund payroll. They needed to pay vendors, and there was not enough cash to be able to pay those. And so a decision was made by the board at that time to declare bankruptcy, which allows you to go into protection and allows you to forestall some of those creditors. After that, a lot of time was spent in the state code to actually add protections because the public sector really, property taxes are very important, and money, of course, funds all of those. So protections were put in place like required oversight committees, requirements for investment policies, requirements for audits. A lot of checks and balances were put in place. Then, fast forward a few years, the state ran into some cash issues, and the state decided to make these mandatory oversight protections optional. So in the early 2000s, all of these became optional. So a lot of counties no longer have oversight committees because it's no longer required, because the state used to fund it as part of SB 90. They used to fund any mandated duties. So that went away. And then today, we actually have the auditor controller has a significant number of audits that are required to be done. But this last year, as of January 1st, the board decided to retain the fiduciary liability for investing funds. So they are the ones who are now investing the funds for safety, liquidity, and yield. That is by law that the local agency governing board. A lot of people may not have recognized when they voted for me, they thought I would be investing the money, but it actually is the responsibility of the governing board. They can release their liability if they delegate only to the treasurer. If they keep it, they maintain that liability for the investings, just like you hire a CPA. In your case, you hire a real estate agent to do your transaction. And do you do due diligence on that agent? Probably. You're going to check what their performance is. You're going to check all of those items. So similar to that, that's really what some of the types of things are. But today, those protections, unfortunately, are mays versus required.
You've been mentioning property tax, and of course, our local government, as lives by that property tax.
Yes.
For real estate professionals, when you're trying to get people into a loan and to get them into a home, you see that property tax bill, and oh goodness, it can be challenging for people to pay and to get qualified and everything. So how can you talk more about the process of complying? And I know you've done a lot to try to streamline that process for the taxpayer to go online. I know is kind of a feature you're proud of, and what else have you done to help the taxpayer just pay their taxes?
Well, really cutting government red tape is really critical. And that's what my focus has been almost from day one as a public servant, to say, how can I make it easier for you to get your job done and not have to worry about these government items that get in the way? So we've really focused on our website, making it very easy to get in and out of for payments, for billing. We want to be like your bank. We want your statements to be on there, your payments, your transactions. We want to make it as easy as possible if you want to go online to do that. Now, if you don't want to go online, we always have people here available to help. But right now we have about 16 years of tax bills online, 2 years of payments. We're trying to increase that for the payment history. We put on recently a new online statement and delinquent balances. So if one of your agents wanted to see if this property tax was paid, they go onto our website. You can either search by parcel number, but of course, who remembers your parcel number? You barely can remember your telephone number anymore, your cell phone number. And we also added a search that's very popular by address. So you can go on and get anyone's tax bill by going online. So online, then you can actually make payment online, either by e-check, which is the most cost-effective way to pay. It's using your bank account. It is secure. We have still a lot of fraud from mail fraud, check washing. We don't want people writing checks. We'd like them to boot that check and go online to pay because it is secure. We have a secure website. We just moved to a .gov. We're very excited because that is a site that's much harder to spoof. So we want to continue increasing the security online so that taxpayers, your agents who are selling properties, have people comfortable about going online.
I was going to maybe back up and take a 30,000-foot view here again. How much money is collected? Do you know more or less, like last year, how much property tax did the county collect?
Yes, we collect over $8 billion of property tax. Probably this year it's going to hit $9 billion.
All right, and then from there, how does it, you mentioned 200 agencies, government agencies in the
Yes.
county are getting that. So how does that, can you remind us how that gets broken down?
Right, so what happens, it's based on tax rate area. Each tax rate has a percentage that's allocated. We have the 1% tax, which we're blessed here. We have Prop 13, very important for us because
Realtors
it
support
does
Prop 13.
keep taxes low. And then you also have the school and community college district debt. So that's at the top on the tax bill. You have the 1%, and then you have those. And then you have a lot of other assessments. In fact, one of the ones I think we were both opposed to was the PACE assessments, which really could make it unaffordable. And they were targeting elderly to put in these improvements, and they had no ideas. And for us, we were trying to collect this large amount of assessment, and it was 10 times the property tax amount because they'd owned the house for years.
Maybe just so for people who might not know what that was. So you would put solar panels on your roof.
Yes.
And it basically, but if you added to your property tax bill, it became part of your property tax bill. Now, if you were to go to sell the home and you got this new, this PACE assessment on that property. So we knew that was going to complicate real estate transactions down the road. So realtors were not real thrilled with that PACE.
Well, and exactly, and the problem is I think the PACE terms and conditions said they could foreclose after a year if you hadn't paid. Now, this is a hot topic that I will bring up. There was just an article the other day about these large assessments going on tax bills, and are the tax collectors actually going to sell that tax bill for that large assessment? And in the past, when it's come up, I have indicated I believe we have the authority to send that back. It's not a county tax bill, so we have sent that back, and I'm certainly supporting the fact that we cannot sell that property for just the assessment amount. It needs to be a tax amount that is over 5 years delinquent. So you'll probably be hearing a little bit of this, and we can follow back up because that's going to be important to you if you find that one of your owners has got this large nuisance abatement. One of them, $15,000, and their tax bill is only $200. How are they going to pay that? It's very difficult to make that payment. It does go through a public hearing, but I'm not sure that the transparency is as great as it could be. So certainly important things to keep in mind, for that we're always looking out for the taxpayer. And of course, you want to sell homes. So when we look out for the taxpayer, it's a win-win for both of us.
So Shari, for a real estate professional who might be, watching this, what message do you have to share? You've given some good information. Is there anything else you would like to share? I thought the Mello-Roos, finding that information would be very useful to our members. Anything else you would like to share?
Well, I think a couple of things.
Okay.
It's in both of our best interests to have taxpayers pay. Once they buy a property, we want to make sure they're paying because they own that. We want to make that experience a good experience. But one of the things that happens right up front is these darn supplemental bills. Some counties don't have supplemental bills. We have, where our county has opted in to, if you buy a property on May 1st, you start paying tax May 1st through the end of the fiscal year, through June 30th, and then you get a full year's tax bill. These get missed by taxpayers. So I want to work closely with your agents to make sure that they are aware that these bills are going to come. The difficulty, they start with the assessor because the assessor sends us the information about the values. So it could be 3 months late. It could be 6 months late. It could be a year late. And sometimes we've actually sent 3 supplemental bills, one for each year because it took the county 3 years to get the information to meet a bill. So supplemental bills is an area that we really don't want people having to pay this 10% fee on. My goal is no one pays 10% fee. That collection rate we want to get higher, and supplemental bills is very important. The other item that I think is critical is the ability to pay online and to look online, start going online for your information. You start that with the technology that you're bringing into your profession. We want to encourage people to say, go online if you've lost your bill. You don't have to even call us. You can just put in your address and go online. Because so many people come down here and say, I lost my bill. And I had to come in and drive all the way here.
Right.
We want you and I to be really hooked at the hip so that the tools we have, you guys can add that value to your agents and then to that customer. So then it's more referrals, which of course is beneficial to those realtors that are doing a great job with it. I think those are the keys that we have. I think one of the other proudest things that I have is we moved from about 75% mailed payments to now about 25% mailed payments. And mostly have moved those to our e-check, as I just mentioned, the ability to pay online. You have the exact amount, you pay online. If you do pay by credit card, there is a slight service fee, but we're just actually lowering the fee. We are just in the process of changing our vendors, and so we're going to be lowering that fee, which is great for you and for those who want to pay by credit card. But we really do focus on our e-checks. We have over 600,000 out of the 850,000 that pay by e-checks. Yes.
Shari, thank you so much for the time and your wealth of information, and we'll try to share all that information with our members. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.